Rich in Mind, Rich in Life. The Daily Practices of an Abundant Thinker, written by Ronnie Rowland, published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Most people believe wealth begins with a paycheck, or a promotion, or a winning lottery ticket. Yet history and human behavior tell a different story. There are those who earn fortunes yet feel perpetually poor, and others with modest means who live richly, generously, expansively. What separates them? It's not luck, it's not talent. It's mindset. The invisible difference between scarcity and abundance lives not in the external world, but in the architecture of our thoughts. In a world obsessed with hustle and hyperachievement, it's easy to miss this truth. The world trains us to grind, to chase, to hoard, always measuring our worth by what we can show, earn, or conquer. But abundant thinkers play a different game. They don't wait for circumstances to crown them wealthy. They cultivate inner wealth first. They understand that abundance isn't a prize waiting at the end of the road, it's the road itself. This book is not about thinking positive for the sake of it. It's about rewiring the way you see yourself, others, and the world through daily practices that build an unshakable foundation of inner wealth. Abundant thinking isn't magic, it's discipline. It's the deliberate choice to operate from a place of sufficiency and possibility, even when the world feels anything but. As neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett explains, our brains are prediction machines, not reaction machines. We don't just react to the world as it is, we predict what the world will be and act accordingly. Abundant thinkers understand this deeply. They know that by feeding their minds with narratives of expansion, generosity, and opportunity, they prime their brains to spot and create more of it. This book will not offer lofty theories or Instagram quotes about success. It will take you inside the daily habits, mindsets, and rituals that abundant thinkers practice, not as a checklist, but as a way of living richly now. You will see how they start their day, guard their mental gates, give without fear, reframe setbacks, and close each day on a note of expansion. You're about to learn that abundance isn't something you chase. It's something you practice. And when you do, life has a funny way of responding in kind. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Inner Gold Rush. There's an old tale of a man who spent years chasing fortune in far-off lands. He battled jungles, crossed oceans, faced storms, all in search of elusive gold. When he returned home, empty-handed and weary, he discovered something remarkable. Buried beneath his own land was a rich vein of gold he had never bothered to explore. It's easy to scoff at the man's folly, but isn't that the story most people live? Always seeking the treasure out there, in bigger salaries, better neighborhoods, flashier accolades, while neglecting the inner gold mine that's been quietly waiting within. Society doesn't hand out maps to that inner mine. From an early age, people are conditioned to see wealth as external, tangible, and countable. They measure success in titles, trophies, and digits on a screen. The world screams louder for more, faster, bigger, and the more one chases, the further it seems to drift. Here's the uncomfortable truth: no amount of chasing external wealth will fill the internal void left by a scarcity-driven mind. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole. No matter how much you add, it never feels enough. Abundant thinkers understand something most overlook. The richest people aren't the ones with the most, but the ones who think in terms of plenty, possibility, and expansion. They've learned that abundance is an inside job. It doesn't start when the promotion lands, the business takes off, or the dream house is bought. It starts now, in the mind. But let's be clear, this isn't about slapping a shiny label of positivity on everything. Abundant thinking isn't fluffy optimism dressed up in self-help jargon. It's a disciplined, gritty, daily practice of seeing the world through a lens of enoughness. It's training the mind to spot opportunities, even in setbacks. It's viewing collaboration as a multiplier, not a threat. It's the difference between saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" and "What might this be opening up for me?" Consider this: miners don't strike gold with the first swing of a pickaxe. It takes persistence, patience, and a belief that treasure lies beneath the surface, even when all they see is rock and dirt. Abundant thinkers approach life the same way. They dig, they sift, they chip away at old mental patterns of scarcity, knowing that within their own thoughts lie veins of gold waiting to be unearthed. So, where do you begin? Start by examining the stories running on autopilot in your mind. Are they scripts of limitation? I'm not good enough. There's never enough time. If they win, I lose. Or are they scripts of expansion? There's room for me. Every challenge grows me. Collaboration is currency? Awareness is the first pickaxe swing. It cracks open the hardened soil of old beliefs. And once you see the fissure, the gold gleams through. The beauty of this inner mind? It's inexhaustible. External fortunes can be lost, markets crash, and companies fold. But the wealth cultivated inside, the lens through which you view yourself and the world, is yours to keep, grow, and share. Abundant thinkers don't wait for the world to make them feel rich. They show up rich in spirit, in thoughts, in how they choose to see and engage with life. And when you operate from that place, the world often responds in kind. In the next chapter, we'll step into the first daily ritual of abundant thinkers, how they carve out their mornings not by reacting to the world's demands, but by creating their day with intention and clarity. Chapter 2. Morning Space, Morning Mind. Picture two people waking up. One jolts upright, fumbles for their phone, and is immediately swallowed by notifications, headlines, and emails screaming for attention. Their day begins as a battlefield, reactive, chaotic, fueled by urgency. The other person wakes, breathes deeply, stretches, and before touching a device, carves out a small sacred space, whether 5 minutes or 50, to set the tone for their day. They ask, what do I want to create today? Instead of, what do I have to get through today? Same sunrise, different mindset, different outcomes. Abundant thinkers know that how you start your day often dictates how you experience it. The morning is the mind's prime real estate. It's when your mental soil is most fertile, open to suggestion, easily influenced. Yet most people hand over that precious territory to the loudest, noisiest, most fear-driven inputs. There's a reason ancient cultures and modern peak performers alike have rituals to begin the day with intention. It's not magic, it's mental priming. The science is clear: your brain, particularly the reticular activating system, filters the world based on what you program into it early on. Start your day in scarcity, stress, and survival mode, and guess what lens your brain will wear the rest of the day. But start it with gratitude, vision, and possibility, and suddenly, you notice opportunities you would have otherwise missed. Abundant thinkers treat their mornings like artists treat a blank canvas. It's their time to choose the colors, the brushstrokes, the mood of the masterpiece they want to create that day. They don't control every event, but they control how they show up to it. What does this look like in practice? It doesn't require an elaborate sunrise ceremony or chanting mantras atop a mountain. Simplicity is key. One practice is the gratitude lens. Before any tasks, they write or silently reflect on 3 things they're genuinely thankful for. Not generic blessings, but specific, visceral moments. The warmth of the coffee mug in their hands, the laugh they shared yesterday, the comfort of a quiet morning. Next, they ask the creator question, what am I excited to create today? This shifts the brain from reactive to proactive mode. Instead of focusing on the mountain of tasks, they focus on the possibilities they can shape. Finally, they pause for the visualization minute. In their mind's eye, they walk through their day, seeing themselves handle challenges with calm, spot creative openings, and connect deeply with people. It's not daydreaming, it's rehearsing for excellence. Even 5 minutes of these practices change the chemistry of the day. They wire the brain for abundance, expansion, and generosity of thought. And over time, this compounds. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and soon, an abundant life is built on the scaffolding of intentional mornings. Contrast this with the default mode, hitting snooze, scrolling feeds, reacting to the day like a pinball. That's not living richly. That's surviving. Abundant thinkers know that wealth isn't found in the rush of inboxes and to-do lists. It's found in the pause before the chaos. It's found in those first conscious breaths where you decide who you want to be today. The world will still pull at you. Fires will still need putting out. But when you start from a place of grounded clarity, you become the eye of the storm. You navigate the day as its author, not its victim. In the next chapter, we'll explore how abundant thinkers extend this principle by fiercely guarding the gates of their attention, treating their mental space as sacred, and curating what they allow in, and filtering out the noise that fuels scarcity. Chapter 3. Guarding the Gates. Imagine your mind as an exclusive club. There's a velvet rope at the door, and you decide who gets in. You wouldn't let anyone off the street waltz into your house, track mud across your floors, or start shouting nonsense in your living room. Yet, every day, countless people allow toxic headlines, fear-fueled opinions, and doom-scrolling strangers to take up prime space in their mental penthouse. Abundant thinkers operate differently. They guard the gates of their attention like a hawk protecting its nest. They know that what enters their mental space doesn't just sit passively, it multiplies, festers, and shapes how they see the world. They've learned, sometimes the hard way, that attention is more valuable than money. Money lost can be replaced. Time and mental bandwidth, once spent, it's gone forever. There's a term used by digital marketers, attention economy. But abundant thinkers flip it on its head. Instead of selling their attention to the highest bidder, social media, sensational news, outrage merchants, they invest it intentionally. They treat their mind like sacred land, curating what they read, watch, listen to, and, most importantly, who they allow to speak into their lives. Consider a simple truth: your inputs shape your outputs. Garbage in, garbage out isn't just for computers. Feed your brain a steady diet of scarcity, comparison, and chaos, and your thoughts will mirror those inputs. But choose books, conversations, podcasts, and environments that stretch your thinking, challenge your comfort zone, and fuel your creativity, and your mind becomes a garden where abundance can flourish. One abundant thinker tells the story of deleting every app on their phone that didn't nourish them. No social feeds, no endless email checking, no sensational news alerts. In its place, they downloaded a simple gratitude journaling app, subscribed to a handful of thought-provoking newsletters, and used their screen time to consume wisdom instead of noise. They reported feeling lighter, more creative, and here's the kicker, more generous with their attention toward others. This isn't about living in a bubble. It's about choosing consciously. Abundant thinkers aren't naive. They know the world can be messy, unjust, even cruel, but they also know that soaking in a daily swamp of negativity doesn't equip them to make a difference. It only drains their mental reserves and breeds helplessness. Guarding the gates starts with a ruthless audit. Ask yourself, what media do I consume first thing in the morning? What conversations dominate my day? Who do I allow to occupy mental real estate through texts, emails, or social circles? Are these inputs expanding my thinking or shrinking it? Are they fueling my creativity or feeding my fears? Once you identify the energy vampires, it's time to put up the velvet rope. Unfollow, unsubscribe, mute. Step away from conversations that spiral into complaint carnivals. Replace them with inputs that stretch you. Seek out stories of resilience, podcasts that challenge your assumptions, books that open windows into new worlds. Abundant thinkers know that when you control your inputs, you reclaim your creative capital. Suddenly, ideas flow easier. Opportunities that once seemed invisible appear in sharp focus. Instead of reacting to the loudest voice in the room, you choose which voices get a seat at your mental table. In a world competing for your attention, protecting it becomes a revolutionary act of self-leadership. When you guard the gates, you create space for abundance to enter. Next, we'll explore how abundant thinkers take this even further, not by hoarding, but by giving. Because in the economy of abundance, generosity is the currency that multiplies. Chapter 4. The Currency of Giving. There's an old proverb whispered in bustling marketplaces: the hand that gives is the hand that gathers. In scarcity-driven mindsets, giving is seen as subtraction, a loss, a depletion of finite resources. But abundant thinkers view generosity through a different lens. It's not giving away, it's giving forward. Picture a baker in a small town. She started offering free samples of her bread, not as a clever marketing gimmick, but because she believed that sharing her craft freely was an act of trust in the abundance of community. People flocked to her shop not just for the bread, but for the experience of generosity. Her small bakery grew into a local treasure, thriving beyond competitors who hoarded their goods and guarded their recipes. This is abundance in action. Abundant thinkers live by a truth many miss: generosity is not a cost, it's a catalyst. They give time, attention, ideas, and kindness without a calculator in hand, not because they expect immediate returns, but because they trust in the infinite nature of creativity, the connection, and contribution. They know that the more they give, the more they expand their circle of influence, goodwill, and unseen opportunities. It's tempting to believe that giving is only for those who have made it. The myth whispers, once I have enough, then I'll give. But abundant thinkers flip that script. They understand that giving is how you realize you already have enough. It's not the act of the rich, it's the practice that makes you rich in relationships, in ideas, in fulfillment. Giving doesn't require grand gestures or writing six-figure checks. It's woven into daily life. Holding the door for someone, sharing a hard-won lesson with a peer, offering your attention fully in a conversation. Small acts, repeated often, create ripples that travel further than we see. Research even backs this up. Studies show that acts of generosity release chemicals in the brain associated with happiness and connection. Giving literally rewires the brain for abundance. When you give, you reinforce the belief that there's more where that came from. And the brain starts scanning the world for even more ways to contribute, creating a self-fueling cycle of abundance. Abundant thinkers also give credit generously. They don't hoard ideas, fearful someone might steal their spotlight. They amplify others, collaborate freely, and trust that rising tides lift all ships. They know that contribution doesn't subtract, it multiplies. But let's be honest, giving can feel risky. Scarcity thinking warns, what if they take advantage, or what if I get nothing back? Abundant thinkers acknowledge those fears, but choose to act anyway. Because they've learned that the greatest depletion comes not from giving too much, but from withholding out of fear. A simple daily practice? Ask yourself each morning, who can I generously help today? Maybe it's an encouraging word, a connection you can make, or a lesson you can share. Make generosity a habit, not a reaction. The beautiful paradox is this: when you make giving part of your identity, you start to attract others who do the same. You build communities of trust, collaboration, and shared wealth that can't be measured in bank accounts but shows up in opportunities, friendships, and legacy. In the next chapter, you'll see how abundant thinkers take this generosity inward as well, by reframing the ordinary. They spot hidden treasures in the mundane moments most overlook. Chapter 5. Reframing the Ordinary. In a bustling city, a young entrepreneur found herself stuck in traffic daily. Most people grumbled, honked, and fumed at the wasted time. She saw something different. As she sat behind the wheel, she noticed a pattern: drivers craning their necks, checking side streets, wishing they had better routes. That frustration birthed an idea. She created an app that provided real-time, user-generated traffic tips for her city. What began as a personal annoyance became a business that helped thousands navigate their days with less stress. She found gold hiding in the ordinary. Abundant thinkers see the world as a landscape of hidden treasures. Where others see only obstacles, they train themselves to see openings. Where others sigh at the mundane, they ask, what's the opportunity here? This isn't about pretending every flat tire is a gift from the universe. It's about conditioning the mind to seek growth in every corner, especially the ones most overlooked. Most people move through life with blinders on, only noticing the extraordinary, the flashy, the Instagram-worthy. They miss the micro moments, the delayed train that creates space for reflection, the awkward conversation that sharpens communication skills, the empty calendar slot that invites creative thought. Abundant thinkers understand that ordinary moments are the compost in which extraordinary growth happens. There's a story of a farmer whose crops failed one year due to an unexpected drought. While others packed up in defeat, he stayed, studying the patterns of the land. He realized that the dry riverbeds exposed new mineral-rich soil. Instead of lamenting his loss, he replanted with drought-resistant crops in those very spots. The next season, his harvest was stronger than ever. The setback wasn't a dead end, it was a setup for innovation. Scarcity thinkers see inconvenience as a thief. Abundant thinkers see it as a teacher. They don't romanticize difficulty, but they respect it. They ask better questions. Instead of why me, they ask, what can this teach me? Instead of this is a waste, they ask, what can I create with this? This reframing isn't a mental trick, it's a discipline. It requires pausing in the middle of frustration, zooming out, and challenging the default narrative. It's noticing the lesson hiding behind the delay, the connection sparked by an unexpected encounter, the chance to practice patience when things move slower than planned. A practical way to build this muscle is to create an opportunity log. At the end of each day, list one ordinary moment that, upon reflection, held a hidden gift. Maybe the long checkout line gave you time to think through a new idea. Maybe the mistake you made at work revealed a system that needed fixing. Over time, this simple exercise rewires the brain to spot possibilities automatically, turning everyday annoyances into fertile ground for growth. Abundant thinkers know that a rich life isn't built only in the highlight reels, it's built in the quiet, ordinary days. The way you see the small things reveals how you'll respond to the big things. And when you train your mind to spot abundance in the mundane, you create a mental habit that spills into every area of life. In the next chapter, you'll discover how abundant thinkers close their day, not by reviewing their failures but by reflecting on where they expanded, setting the stage for even greater abundance tomorrow. Chapter 6. Expansion over gaps. Builders don't end their workday by staring at the cracks in the wall. They stand back, admire the progress, and envision what comes next. Yet most people close their day doing the opposite, mentally replaying mistakes, unfinished tasks, and conversations they wish they had handled better. This nightly habit cements a scarcity mindset, training the brain to fixate on gaps rather than growth. Abundant thinkers flip the script. They understand that the way you close your day is just as important as how you start it. The mind, before sleep, is highly impressionable. It clings to whatever narrative you feed it, replaying those thoughts in the theater of your dreams, priming your subconscious for the next day. If you end your day in frustration and self-critique, you're rehearsing scarcity. But if you close your day reflecting on expansion, you train your mind to seek opportunities while you sleep. There's science behind this. Studies in neuroscience reveal that the brain continues to process and consolidate information during sleep. What you think about before bed often becomes the filter through which your brain sorts and organizes your memories and emotions. Abundant thinkers use this window to feed their minds images of progress, growth, and possibility. One simple but powerful practice they use is the expansion reflection. Before sleep, they ask themselves two questions. First, where did I expand today? This could be a new skill learned, a courageous conversation initiated, or simply staying calm in a situation that previously triggered frustration. Second, where can I open more tomorrow? This invites the mind to consider new possibilities, turning perceived failures into invitations for growth. This nightly ritual isn't about ignoring missteps or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to highlight expansion over gaps. It's acknowledging the cracks but focusing the spotlight on the progress made. Over time, this reshapes the brain's default mode from self-criticism to self-leadership. There's a story of an executive who, after years of falling into the trap of nightly rumination, began practicing this reflection. She kept a small notebook by her bed. Every night, she listed one area where she stretched herself that day. Even on the most challenging days, she could find something: a patient email sent, a new question asked, a boundary held. She reported that after just a month, her sleep improved, her mornings felt lighter, and her overall resilience grew. Abundant thinkers know that what you rehearse, you reinforce. By ending the day with expansion, you tell your mind, "This is who I am, a person who grows, adapts, and evolves." It's a subtle shift with powerful ripple effects. Try this tonight. Before closing your eyes, reflect on one area where you expanded today, no matter how small. Then, visualize where you can open more tomorrow. See yourself stepping into that space, with curiosity and confidence. Let that be the final note your mind plays before sleep. When you make this a nightly habit, you create a loop of growth. Each day becomes a staircase, not a treadmill. You're not running in place, counting only what's missing. You're climbing, seeing how far you've come and what exciting terrain lies ahead. In the next chapter, you'll see how abundant thinkers apply this mindset, even to failure itself, transforming setbacks into rich soil where future success takes root. Chapter 7. Fail Rich. The world loves to celebrate success stories, the overnight triumphs, the billion-dollar deals, the flawless victories. What gets less airtime is the messy, awkward, sometimes humiliating road that wins beneath those glossy headlines. Behind every best-selling author is a stack of rejection letters. Behind every groundbreaking invention is a trail of prototypes that failed miserably. Abundant thinkers don't just tolerate failure, they embrace it as essential tuition on the path to growth. Failure, in scarcity thinking, is a dead end. It signals defeat, triggers shame, and fuels the inner critic's favorite chorus, "See? You're not enough." But abundant thinkers reframe failure as a rich classroom. They know that every misstep holds data, lessons, and hidden doorways to innovation. Instead of fearing it, they get curious about it. Consider Thomas Edison. When asked how he felt about failing thousands of times before inventing the light bulb, he famously reframed it, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." While the quote has been polished over time, the mindset behind it is pure abundance. Edison wasn't obsessed with the mistakes, he was obsessed with progress. Abundant thinkers cultivate what's called fail-rich thinking. They view every stumble not as a personal indictment but as feedback. Where did the idea break down? What variable was overlooked? What strength did the failure reveal that might have gone unnoticed otherwise? They ask better questions, and in doing so, extract better lessons. There's a story of a chef who opened a small restaurant in a sleepy town. Her first menu flopped. The locals didn't connect with her avant-garde dishes. Instead of closing shop in frustration, she pivoted. She invited her customers into the kitchen for tasting nights, letting them co-create the new menu. The result? A wildly successful community-driven dining experience that became a model for others. Her initial failure wasn't the end, it was the opening act to something richer than she had imagined. Scarcity thinkers hide from failure. They sweep it under the rug, avoid risk, and play small to protect themselves from embarrassment. But abundant thinkers run toward it. They seek feedback, own their mistakes publicly, and wear their failures as badges of learning, not scars of shame. One powerful tool they use is the fail-rich debrief. After any setback, they ask 3 questions. What did I attempt? What did I learn? How will I adapt? This simple reflection turns failure from a static event into an evolving story. It reframes the narrative from "I failed" to "I'm learning," and that slight linguistic shift changes everything. Abundant thinkers also know that failing publicly builds resilience. When you stop hiding from missteps, you stop fearing them. You liberate yourself from the exhausting performance of perfection. And when others see you own your failures with grace, it creates trust, connection, and even admiration. The paradox? Those who fail rich often succeed faster. Not because they're smarter, but because they're in the arena, taking swings, iterating, improving. They know that the only true failure is standing still, waiting for perfect conditions that never come. Tomorrow's success is seated in today's failures, if you're willing to dig into them. In the next chapter, you'll see how abundant thinkers continue this theme by sharpening their language, recognizing that words aren't just labels. They're tools that either open doors to abundance or lock them shut. Chapter 8. Language of the Abundant. Words shape worlds. They are not just sounds strung together, they are architects of thought, emotion, and behavior. Abundant thinkers know this truth intimately. They understand that the language they choose, internally and externally, either expands their reality or shrinks it. They speak abundance, not because it sounds good, but because it programs their mind to see, feel, and act from a place of possibility. Consider 2 people facing the same challenge. One says, "This is impossible. I'll never figure it out." The other says, "This is tough, but I'm learning something new." Same obstacle, different language, different lens, different outcome. Scarcity thinking hides in subtle phrases. "I can't afford that. That's just the way it is. People like me don't get those opportunities." These aren't just statements, they are scripts, reinforcing a worldview of lack, limitation, and helplessness. Abundant thinkers become linguistic detectives. They catch themselves when scarcity slips into their speech. Instead of "I have to," they say "I get to." Instead of "I'm stuck," they say "I'm exploring options." These aren't empty affirmations, they are recalibrations of agency. They reclaim the pen from scarcity and write their narrative in ink that speaks of choice, expansion, and creativity. Research backs this up. Studies in cognitive psychology show that the words we use influence how our brains process situations. When people use language that frames challenges as opportunities, their brains activate problem-solving areas rather than stress centers. Abundant thinkers leverage this science daily, knowing that their choice of words can tilt their brain toward openness or fear. There's a story of a teacher who noticed her students struggled with math. Instead of labeling them as bad at numbers, she began calling them mathematicians in training. That simple shift transformed their self-identity. They approached problems with curiosity instead of dread, and their performance improved, not because the curriculum changed, but because the language around it did. Abundant thinkers extend this practice to how they speak to others. They are generous with encouragement, specific with praise, and cautious not to poison conversations with phrases that close doors. They avoid gossip, complaint marathons, and the verbal virus of victimhood that infects so many group settings. They ask better questions: what's possible here? What can we create together? Inviting others into a space of expansion. A practical exercise? Over the next 24 hours, audit your language. Notice when you use phrases that drip with scarcity. Replace them intentionally. I can't becomes how might I. That's impossible becomes what would make it possible. Over time, this becomes a habit, and your mind starts to default to language that builds bridges instead of walls. Abundant thinkers also recognize the power of silence. Not every thought deserves airtime. They practice restraint, allowing space between stimulus and response, choosing their words with care. They understand that language, like currency, is most valuable when spent wisely. This isn't about sugarcoating reality or ignoring challenges. Abundant thinkers face facts head-on, but they choose words that empower, not paralyze. They use language as a lever, lifting themselves and others towards solutions, collaboration, and creativity. Words are tools. Scarcity thinkers use them to reinforce the cages they believe they're trapped in. Abundant thinkers use them to chisel open new doorways, even in old walls. In the next chapter, you'll see how this mastery of language flows into a deeper truth. Abundant thinkers protect their most vital asset, their energy. Because without energy, even the richest vocabulary falls flat. Chapter 9. Energy is wealth. Picture an athlete showing up to a marathon after pulling an all-nighter, skipping breakfast, and wearing shoes 2 sizes too small. No matter how much talent they possess, they won't get far. Energy, not just skill, determines their performance. Abundant thinkers know this lesson well. They treat their energy as their most precious currency, guarding it, investing it wisely, and refusing to spend it recklessly. In scarcity thinking, energy is an afterthought. People burn the candle at both ends, chasing goals on fumes, wearing exhaustion like a badge of honor. I'm so busy becomes a humble brag, as if depletion signals importance, but abundant thinkers see the trap. They know that running on empty doesn't make you a hero, it makes you ineffective. Energy isn't infinite. It's a resource that, when protected and replenished, fuels creativity, generosity, and resilience. When squandered, it becomes the silent tax that erodes every other area of life. Abundant thinkers understand that their capacity to show up fully, to lead, create, connect, rises and falls with the quality of their energy. They practice what could be called an energy audit. Periodically they ask, what drains me? What fuels me? They get honest about the meetings that leave them depleted, the people who siphon their focus, the habits that sap their vitality. They don't wait for burnout to force a recalibration, they adjust proactively. This might mean saying no to projects that aren't aligned with their purpose. It might mean restructuring their day to tackle deep work when their energy is highest, often in the morning, and reserving less demanding tasks for later. It might mean protecting sleep like it's their most important meeting, because it is. There's a story of a CEO who transformed his leadership not by adding more hours to his day, but by fiercely protecting his mornings. He stopped scheduling back-to-back meetings, blocked off time for reflection and strategy, and prioritized exercise and nourishment. His team noticed the difference, not just in his mood, but in the clarity and effectiveness of his decisions. He didn't work more, he worked better. That's abundant energy stewardship in action. Abundant thinkers also recognize emotional energy leaks. They notice how ruminating on the past, indulging in petty conflicts, or endlessly doom scrolling drains them faster than any workload. They cut those leaks ruthlessly. They replace them with practices that recharge them: nature walks, creative hobbies, and meaningful conversations. Protecting energy isn't about living in a bubble of comfort. It's about ensuring that when they step into challenges, they do so with a full tank, able to give their best without running themselves ragged. They see energy management as leadership, not luxury. A simple daily ritual? Each morning ask, where is my energy most needed today? And at night, reflect, where did I spend my energy well? Where did I waste it? Over time, these reflections sharpen the ability to deploy energy like a skilled investor, putting it where it multiplies, not where it evaporates. Abundant thinkers understand that when their energy is rich, everything else flows from it: ideas, relationships, health, and impact. But when it's depleted, even the best strategies falter. In the next chapter, you'll discover how abundant thinkers extend this principle beyond themselves by curating the circles they keep. Because who you spend your energy with determines how far that energy will take you. Chapter 10. Circles of Expansion. There's an old saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Abundant thinkers live by this principle, knowing that the company they keep either expands their thinking or confines it. They treat their inner circle as an ecosystem, carefully curated to support, challenge, and stretch them toward their highest potential. Scarcity thinkers often cling to familiarity, surrounding themselves with people who reflect their current state, who validate their limitations, who avoid uncomfortable truths. It feels safe, predictable, but many thinkers see the danger in that comfort. They know that who you spend time with shapes not just your mood, but your mindset, habits, and ambitions. There's a famous study that confirms this. Researchers found that people's behaviors, including health choices and income levels, are heavily influenced by their social networks. You become, in many ways, the average of the people you surround yourself with. Abundant thinkers don't leave this to chance. They audit their circles regularly, asking, do the people around me challenge me to think bigger? Do they expand my vision, or do they reinforce scarcity and fear? This doesn't mean abandoning old friends or cutting ties ruthlessly. It means being intentional about proximity. Abundant thinkers create layers of connection. Their inner circle, their closest, most influential relationships, is filled with those who embody growth, generosity, and possibility. They might still engage with others, but they're mindful of who gets backstage access to their mental and emotional space. One entrepreneur shared how she transformed her life by joining a mastermind group of bold thinkers. Initially, she felt out of place, like an imposter. But as she spent time with these individuals, their language, habits, and standards rubbed off on her. Her thinking expanded simply by osmosis. She took bolder actions, asked better questions, and her results reflected the shift. Abundant thinkers don't just seek comfort in their circles, they seek challenge. They want people who push back, who call them higher, who refuse to let them play small. They surround themselves with those who see them not just as they are, but as they could be. They also practice generosity within their circles. They contribute value, offer encouragement, and open doors for others without keeping score. They know that abundance in relationships comes not from taking, but from giving. They create ecosystems where everyone grows together, where wins are shared, and where collaboration replaces competition. A practical way to apply this is the circle check exercise. List the 5 people you spend the most time with. Reflect honestly. Do they elevate your thinking or drain it? Do they speak the language of abundance or scarcity? Are they architects of possibility or critics of dreams? This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. Once you see the patterns, you can make conscious choices about who you invite into your closest circle. Abundant thinkers also understand that sometimes the most expansive circle is found in books, podcasts, and mentors they've never met. They curate inputs that stretch them beyond their immediate environment, ensuring their circle includes diverse perspectives that challenge their biases and expand their worldview. Your circle is your mirror. It reflects back the level of thinking you tolerate, the risks you're willing to take, the generosity you embody. Choose it with intention, and it becomes a greenhouse for your growth. In the next chapter, you'll discover how abundant thinkers ground all these practices in the radical belief that they are already enough, that abundance doesn't start when you get more, but when you embrace the power of enoughness. Chapter 11. The Enough Mindset. In the art world, there's a story of a painter who chased gallery fame for years. She measured success by the number of exhibitions, the prestige of buyers, and the zeros on her price tags. Yet the more she chased, the more hollow her work felt. It wasn't until she let go of the obsession with proving herself and painted for the sheer joy of creation that her work found its soul, and ironically, her career took off. She discovered what abundant thinkers know well: enoughness isn't settling, it's the birthplace of authentic abundance. Scarcity thinking traps people in the endless chase: more followers, more dollars, more trophies, more validation. It's a treadmill that never stops because the finish line keeps moving. Abundant thinkers step off that treadmill. They recognize that enoughness isn't complacency, it's a foundation of internal stability that allows them to create, give, and lead from a place of sufficiency rather than desperation. When you live from a mindset of lack, no achievement feels like a rival. There's always a higher mountain, a shinier prize, a bigger applause. This mindset breeds exhaustion and comparison. Abundant thinkers disrupt this pattern by declaring, I am enough. I have enough. From this place I choose to expand. It's a subtle but radical shift. It doesn't mean they stop growing, it means their growth comes from wholeness, not from trying to patch an internal void. There's a story of an executive who once confessed that no matter how many bonuses he earned or milestones he hit, he felt like he was losing. Only when he redefined success as alignment with his values, being present for his family, contributing to causes he cared about, and nurturing his health, did he feel wealthy, regardless of his income. His external life didn't change overnight, but his internal wealth skyrocketed. Abundant thinkers use tools like the enough list to ground themselves. They write down everything they already have: skills, relationships, experiences, lessons learned, values. This isn't a feel-good exercise, it's a recalibration. It reminds them that they're already operating from a place of richness. They don't need to hustle for worthiness. From this anchored place, they can pursue goals with freedom, creativity, and joy. This mindset also transforms how they view others' success. Scarcity thinkers see others' wins as threats. Abundant thinkers celebrate them, knowing there's room for everyone. Enoughness liberates them from the toxic game of comparison, allowing them to appreciate their own path while championing others on theirs. Enoughness also tempers the impulse to overconsume. Abundant thinkers buy, spend, and acquire from intentionality, not impulse. They ask, does this truly enrich my life, rather than, will this impress others? This leads to cleaner finances, lighter homes, and deeper satisfaction. Critically, abundant thinkers don't wait for external permission to feel enough. They claim it daily. They know that no award, follower count, or business deal will deliver the lasting feeling of sufficiency. It has to be cultivated within. Try this tonight. Write your own enough declaration. List the ways you are already enough. Reflect on the moments you felt most alive, most at peace, most like yourself. Notice how those moments often had little to do with achievement and everything to do with presence, contribution, and alignment with your values. Abundant thinkers understand that when you ground yourself in enoughness, you become unstoppable. You pursue goals from joy, not scarcity. You take bold action without fear of losing yourself. You live richly, here and now, not in some imagined future. In the final chapter, you'll see how abundant thinkers weave all these practices into daily rituals that turn abundant thinking from a philosophy into a way of life. Chapter 12. Living richly, daily. Abundance isn't a single breakthrough moment. It's built, layer by layer, through small daily choices that accumulate into a life of richness. Abundant thinkers don't wait for the perfect job, the ideal partner, or the $1,000,000 windfall to feel wealthy. They weave abundance into the ordinary fabric of their days, turning practices into rituals and rituals into an identity. There's a story of a gardener who tended to a modest backyard plot. She didn't wait for rare seeds or exotic fertilizers. She showed up daily, watering, pruning, and observing. Over time, her humble garden became an oasis, not because she chased dramatic results, but because she honored the small, consistent actions that created beauty. Abundant thinkers approach their lives the same way. They understand that wealth isn't made in grand gestures, it's cultivated in the everyday. They start their mornings with intention, priming their minds for possibility, not scarcity. They protect their mental gates fiercely, curating what they consume, ensuring their thoughts are fueled by expansion, not fear. They give generously, not waiting for a surplus, but creating one through their contributions. They reframe ordinary moments, mining them for hidden opportunities. They close their day reflecting on where they grew, where they stretched, and where they can open even more tomorrow. These aren't chores, they're rituals of inner wealth. And the beauty of these rituals is that they compound. Like daily deposits in an interest-bearing account, they grow quietly but powerfully over time, transforming not just thoughts but behaviors, relationships, and outcomes. Abundant thinkers don't rely on willpower alone. They design their environments to support these practices. They place journals by their beds, set reminders for gratitude breaks, and join communities that reinforce abundant habits. They know that environment shapes behavior, so they architect spaces that make living richly the default, not the exception. They also allow for imperfection. They understand that some days the rituals will feel routine, some days they'll forget, and that's okay. Abundance thinking isn't an all-or-nothing game. It's a muscle that grows through repetition, through getting back on track without self-judgment. Most importantly, abundant thinkers make these practices personal. They adapt them to fit their unique rhythms, values, and lifestyles. There's no one-size-fits-all abundance blueprint. The key is consistency, not complexity. Try this, create your own daily abundance blueprint. Write down one small practice for each pillar: morning priming, attention curating, generous giving, reframing the ordinary, and closing the day with reflection. Keep it simple. A 2-minute gratitude pause, a 5-minute media audit. One generous gesture, one reframe of a daily annoyance, one nightly reflection. These small acts, done daily, become the scaffolding for a rich life. Abundant thinkers know that living richly is less about what you do once in a while, and more about what you do daily. It's in the micro decisions, the small pauses, the intentional words, the conscious choices to see the world through the lens of enoughness and expansion. When you live this way, something shifts. The external world still brings challenges, uncertainties, and setbacks, but you navigate them from a place of inner steadiness. You become the kind of person who creates wealth from within, and that inner wealth spills into your health, your relationships, your finances, and your sense of purpose. This is the heart of abundant thinking. It's not a secret. It's not a hack. It's a daily way of being. And the best part? You can begin today. Because abundance isn't waiting for you out there. It's waiting inside you, ready to be practiced, lived and shared, richly, daily, always. Take care and be well.